Okay, let's get started. So first, a short introduction. I will tell a bit more about e-invoicing, also the combination APRO e-invoicing and banking, and then I will demonstrate with two XML invoices to process them to Oracle, creating a payment batch, picking up the payment batch with APRO banking, and then send the payment file to the bank. This is me. I'm Peter. I'm working almost 10 years at APRO. Worked a lot with Oracle Business Suite and Oracle Cloud already before I moved into the company. So yeah, I'm pretty much a specialist on Oracle. Let's start with e-invoicing. Why e-invoicing? I think yeah, the core features. Why is because could be an automated process where you don't need to OCR your invoices anymore because it's an XML and the XML can be mapped to the right Oracle payables fields. It's a standardization part because in each country, for example, where they use PEPL, there's a standard UBL format which needs to be used. Or if it's country specific, there's one format which needs to be used to process your invoices. Other facts and features are, of course, it's real-time reporting to the government. And in some countries, there's a signature needed to get the invoice as a valid invoice to your customer. It's a global adoption e-invoicing, so it's used worldwide. So we see around the globe that there are still coming more and more mandates on e-invoicing. So next year, I believe Belgium will start with AP and AR for both sides, from business to business. And here in Europe, you see a lot of them are already using business to government, where it's a mandate. But everywhere, it becomes more like a regular process, especially in Italy, where it's already adopted for a few years right now, and where all the people are using e-invoicing to process invoices or to receive invoices from a government portal. It has a lot of impact on your business. You need to connect to portals. You need to have a PEPL service provider to give you access to PEPL and send or receive invoices. Yeah, you need to have an integration with Oracle to process your AP or AR invoices. And also, yeah, you need to have a system where you can see all your acknowledgements from if an invoice is processed correctly, yes or no. But that's also, of course, on the banking side, if a payment goes well, yes or no. A bit more about the mandates. So in 2025, you can see Germany started with the AP side. So if you receive an XML invoice on the AP side, you have to process the XML file and not only the PDF anymore. And also for Malaysia, Singapore, Slovakia, and China, they are also working on mandates to get it ready for e-invoicing. Next year, so 2026, Belgium, France, Spain, Poland, they all start with e-invoicing mandates. So that's all upcoming for next year. I think Spain is still a question mark. There are no really timelines when that happens, but anyway, I believe that's still in 2026. So what happens? So if you process the invoice, you still need to make a payment. And yeah, creating a payment, sometimes it can be time consuming if you have to do that all manually. So if a payment batch comes in, you need to check if you have the right format for the right bank. And if the bank doesn't accept the format or something is wrong with the format, how do you fix it? You need to remove the format again. You need to create a new payment batch again. And you will lose a lot of time. But it could also be that payments are getting or invoices are getting paid too late, and all the other steps that will be really time consuming. So for employees, it's also a hard time if payments are not going okay. There's a lot of frustration, also a lot of IT involvement. If you don't have a system that can work with multiple banks, multiple payment formats, etc. And yeah, that's of course what we are going to show with APRO banking, that we have a lot of formats to connect. So we already have more than 1900 banking formats. So not all of them are all payment formats, but also bank statement formats. But I believe 1600 are payment formats. So basically we can pay to any bank in the world with the right format. There's a rejection handling inside. So you will get the acknowledgement back from your bank if something is rejected or everything is approved. That will be visible with the APRO. You can see the acknowledgement file. You can see which transactions are rejected, why, etc. There are also built-in approvals. So basically each batch, invoice approval payment batch can be approved with limitations. So you can start like, okay, invoice payment batch above 500 euros, they need to be approved by one user. If the payment batch is 1 million, 3 people need to approve, and that can be also done within the system. You can also have it fully automated without any approvals. So basically, APRO picks up all the payment batches that are ready in Oracle. APRO create the right format and send it straight to the bank. Of course, it all comes with the Oracle integration. So if you have an acknowledgement file where you have a transaction which is rejected, you can also void that one transaction. And that voidment, that status will also be updated in Oracle to to fix the issue on the transaction and then send it again with the next payment run. So eventually, to use APRO, it saves time, it saves money, and of course your staff is happy because for them it's an easy process to use. So this is a bit how it looks. So we pick up invoices, payment batch from Oracle will be picked up by APRO. APRO will create the right format and send it to the bank. The bank sends an acknowledgement file back to APRO with the same host-to-host connection or SFTP connection, if that's still in use, and that is directly visible within the dashboard. Now we start with the demo. So let's open the APRO application. I have APRO already open, so let me show the APRO application. Maybe for some of you it's already known if you are already using APRO. For others that never seen APRO, you log in to URL which is connected to APRO, and yeah, you can use this to process invoices. I start with new invoices that came in. I can also select to new invoices. So basically, I'm now creating a connection to a portal where 2 invoices are waiting and they need to be picked up by APRO. So how does it work? Within APRO, you can have a scheduled process which checks each government portal, each PEPAL connection, each single time if it needs to fetch new invoices. You can schedule that like each 50 minutes, 24/7, or you can schedule it each 5 minutes if you want to pick up invoices a bit more quickly. So we go to the AP invoice automation side, and from here we start with the import overview. So in here you can have a look, all the invoices that are picked up with a run number. So each line contains a bucket of invoices that are picked up, or it could be e-invoices. It could also be still PDF invoices. If you need to process PDF invoices with APRO, you can just make a connection with your own email account to fetch invoices as well. If we refresh, things will be picked up soon because this is scheduled like, I don't know, each 5 or 10 minutes. If you want to look up, okay, what did we actually picked up? You can see here the files that we picked up. And for this example, we picked up 2 Italian invoices. So eventually we will pick up new invoices. I can also start the process manually if needed. So e-invoices and then import. Now you can see 2 invoices are picked up. And also now in the connection here, you can see that the process is running and that things are picked up. So we are now running the XML recognition. 2 XMLs are picked up. They are now processed by APRO. Those 2 invoices, they come from the Italian government. So those are Factura PAs. So that's the format of the XML. APRO recognizes the format and now it's done. So the invoices are waiting or they are processed into APRO. So in the invoice history screen, we can follow the process of each single invoice that came in and what happened to that specific invoice. So if I look up for today, I see 4 invoices that are forwarded. And again, we see 2 invoices are done. They also have a status in Oracle OFC, so Oracle Fusion. They are approved and they are ready to be picked up for a payment batch. And also I have 2 invoices that needs revalidation. So they are waiting in a bucket within APRO to be validated because they could not be processed straight to Oracle. Where can I find those invoices? You can see here the latest imported invoices. So there are 2 invoices waiting in a queue to be checked and to see, what do we need to do. What also good to know is that it can be fully automated. So you don't basically, why is this invoice still on hold? One, the invoice number. It's already recognized by APRO in Oracle. We do all kinds of checks up front to check if it's a duplicate, if maybe the bank account mentioned on the invoice is not in the not in your Oracle system, we can give a warning. We can have several pre-validation checks before it hits Oracle. For this example, the invoice number exists. In this case, I will just update the invoice number that we can still process it. And also, it's not allowed to move straight to Oracle. What also good to see is for the Italian invoices, they don't put a PDF within the XML file. APRO can create a dummy PDF so that it's still visible of what is invoiced. So what is actually invoiced within the XML file. So also in your approval process, in your payment process, you know exactly what you're paying, what for, and also what you're approving for. So if I click now on Save and Validate, the invoice will be processed to Oracle and a next invoice pops up. So we just go to a next invoice in line that needs approval. Then we have a next invoice. Here it says the invoice recognition is below 100, but basically after a few invoices from a supplier side, this will disappear. And then APRO knows, okay, this is a validated date or invoice number, and I don't need to show the supplier data checks anymore. Also, this one was not allowed because I just want to show you also the user interface of APRO, because not a lot of companies are also having a user interface if things cannot be processed to Oracle straight away. So what does that mean? That APRO always pushes invoices that really will be validated in Oracle. So nothing gets stuck into Oracle because we do all the pre-checks already up front. That saves you a lot of time, that nothing can get stuck in the Oracle interface, or if they send APIs with wrong invoice data, that it will get lost somewhere in the system. So it's always, or it's in the APRO workbench, or it's already validated in the Oracle payables model. So this invoice, next invoice, we're going to click on Save and Validate again to process it to Oracle. So now APIs will be run. It needs approval that the invoice data is correctly recognized by APRO. You could also see that it already has invoice lines. So APRO can create automatic PO matching based on the XML data on the XML invoice lines. If it's a non-PO invoice, we can also create accounting rules per supplier side that we recognize XML values. It could be header values, could be line values, or a combination of two to create the right code combination so that we can also process directly to Oracle non-PO invoices. Both invoices, they are now approved and sent to Oracle. So basically, when we go back to the invoice history screen, we look up again today, we can see that now the 2 invoices that were still on needs revalidation, one is unvalidated, one is done. So this one is already in Oracle. With the next update from Oracle, you will see that they will be also approved. So if I click on refresh, you can see now this last invoice is now sent to Oracle. But if I go to the invoice that we just updated to Oracle, then we can have a look in Oracle as well. So let me open Oracle. This is already the payment process, but let's go first one step back. Let's go to the invoices and have a look how they now are visible in Oracle. look up the invoice number. We will see one record added to Oracle in here. If I open the invoice, you can see the invoice is created in Oracle. It also already has the attachments, and not only one attachment, two attachments. So it's the APRO dummy PDF, and also the original XML from the portal is added to the Oracle attachment button. Why is this so important? If you have your Oracle approval process running, then people can still open the PDF for visibility of what they approve instead of only the XML, because that will give a lot of confusion if they need to approve an XML file because the data looks a bit weird in the XML, of course, if they are known to PDF files. So the invoice is already validated. So basically the next step in this whole process is to get this invoice paid. So what the first step is, you can also, of course, schedule that in Oracle. I do it with a manual step. You go to payments and you can start a new request of submitting a new payment process. I already did that with some predefined invoices, and they are only waiting for a submit from my end. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So let's go to the invoices that are waiting for to get submitted. Here you see the invoices. They are need to be paid. So 2 invoices for this supplier side and 2 invoices for this. Those are the same supplier side, same invoices that we need to pay. So if I click on the second one, you can also see the invoice numbers that needs to be paid, and everything is visible. If I click on resume payment process, then basically now the whole batch is ready to be picked up by APRO. So we just have to wait until they are visible within the APRO system. But let's go already to APRO because it goes really quick. These invoices, because it's a low amount, they don't need approval, but I also want you to show how that looks in APRO if you would do approval for those invoices. So I go back to my APRO application because here we are ready. Both are done, and probably you can see one of them is already approved, and this one will get the status soon if there is a new update from Oracle. We go back, we go to payments, and we start with the workbench of all the payments that needs to be done. You can see these two needs improvements. If I go to create file, we need a refresh, but eventually also the new batch that we just created in Oracle, it will be visible within the system soon once it's completed by Oracle and updated to be picked up. So APRO is checking this also with a scheduled process to fetch new payment batches. It checks how big the payment is, if it needs approval. So here you can see this one, it now needs approval because it's above the 500 euro. So this is the one we just created. I can go to select and then approve selection. Cannot approve, all payments need to be approved. I need to approve by line. You can also say approve in total, only the batch. So it's approved. And now probably I can also approve. So the batch is approved. So basically now it's ready to file creation. So that's the next step in line. You can see it in here. And what will happen is that with a scheduled process, APRO will create the right banking format, and eventually also it will send it to the bank automatically. So for all these payments are directly visible in your bank because they will be uploaded by your bank and the payment file will be created. I can also do the manual step, so create file, and then eventually the file will be created and it will be in progress. After it's complete, it will be visible in here. Like you see here, the payment batch file, it's completed. Because I don't have a test connection with the bank, this is now ready on my SFTP drive. You can open the payment batch. So basically you can download it to have a look. And then you can see that the payment file is created. Here you can see the payment file, what is sent to the bank. So basically, that's the whole process from invoicing to payment. I also have one acknowledgement file that I would like to show you. So I can also show you that part within APRO. I just need to move to a different queue for that one. So let me go back, because I created an SFTP file to show you also the acknowledgement part. Let's go in here. And then we go to APRO demo, ACS, NL. Here you can see the payment file we just created. So you can see that it's moved to a queue, but normally it of course goes to your bank. From here, I also have an acknowledgement file. So I pretend that an acknowledgement file has been sent by the bank back, and then it will be transferred to APRO to be picked up, because one of the payments that we did, it got rejected, and the bank is sending you an acknowledgement file with the rejection. This is, of course, normally all automated, but for now, I'm going to show you, of course, the manual process. And eventually then, if that happens, the acknowledgement file will be automatically picked up by APRO. So we go to a different sandbox to the acknowledgement files. And you can see that the acknowledgement file has been picked up. This one is from yesterday, but eventually it will also pick up the new one. Now you can see that a file acknowledgement file is picked up. You can download the file, but what's better is to look up what actually happened. And here you can see all the acknowledgement files from a certain period. And you can see for this part, you can see there's a rejection on one of the invoices. It's rejected because there was an invalid IBAN. So visible in the acknowledgement history, but of course this one is also visible in the supplier payment history, where we just did the payment of one batch. So this is the latest batch. You can see the invoices beyond it. Because they are processed with APRO, I can also download directly the invoice images from those payments. And what I can show you in here, for example, that one of these got rejected. Here you can see that there was an acknowledgement sent back from the bank with rejection, and this invoice could be now voided back to Oracle. So basically you can say void payment. You can also see that it's voided, and based on that, it will be updated in Oracle as well. So if we would void this payment, like there should be an acknowledgement that's rejected. So I cannot void the payment where there is no acknowledgement that it was incorrect. So you can only void transactions that really are rejected by the bank. So this one was voided. And also now in Oracle, this is visible in behind the payment, manage payments. I can look up the payment number in here. And also here you can see it's voided. So basically APRO has a direct connection, direct API to void payments, the one transaction. And this transaction can now be picked up again in a new payment batch if needed.